Welcome r/EntitledParents. M may have killed her child because she wouldn't listen. I work in an ice cream parlor in a tourist zone of my town. Weekends are an absolute nightmare for us because of the sheer amount of people coming in. On one special and magical day, M comes in with 3 kids. There was nothing about her that could have warned me that she was a Karen. 2 of her kids looked not much older than 5. I'm really bad at guessing people age, especially kids, and the other one couldn't have been older than 3. The kids were, as expected, attracted to our most colorful choices of ice cream. All of them are almost pure sugar and chemical flavors. The older kids asked for 2 scoops, and I know for a fact 2 scoops is too much for them, since our serving size are absolutely huge. So I told the mom I'll make 1 scoop and she'll see whether or not she want to pay for 2. She insisted I do whatever her kids want. So I obliged. I don't care. If you pay $7 on a cone, your kid won't even eat half of it. The real problem came when the youngest kid, a cute little girl, wanted the blue ice cream, bubble gum. I warned M that the bubblegum ice cream contains full-size bubble gums and there is a risk of choking for small kids. She responded something along those lines. M: oh, it's okay, she's old enough, and anyway there is no warning, so I'm sure you're exaggerating. Me: shows her one of the bubble gums. M: getting frustrated, just don't put any in her ice cream. Me: it's impossible, they are already in the ice cream, and I can't guarantee there won't be any in the scoops I give her. M: I don't care. Just give her what she wants, or I'll make a complaint. My manager is the sweetest boss I've ever had, and she always back up her employees when a client acts entitled, so it wasn't much of a threat. Yet I still gave her the ice cream, because I was only 2 hours into my shift, and I had 6 hours more coming, and I didn't wanted any drama this early. As soon as little girl, LG, got her ice cream, she went on to join her brothers who were on the other side of the shop, eating their super kid ice creams. When it was time to pay, M started arguing about the prices. Keep in mind I had warned her about the price of her son's cones earlier. I guess she wasn't interested in the saying of a low-life ice cream parlor employee. M: impossible. 4 ice creams cannot be worth that much. You're trying to scam me. Me: I'm sorry ma'am, but those are our prices. The prices on the boards behind me do not include the taxes. M: I don't care about the taxes. How can 4 ice creams be worth $26? Me: well, your sons both took 2 scoops, which is $6 each, plus they took waffle cones, which are $1 each, so we're already at $14. You took 2 scoops on a sugar cone, so $6.75 more, and your daughter had 1 scoop for $4.25 plus extra candies $1. It gives a total of $26. M: this is ridiculous. Who charges for the waffle cones anyway? Those regular cones are disgusting. No one wants that. The cones should be free. Me: I'm sorry ma'am, but I don't do the prices. This is what it is. Now will you pay cash or card? I was harsh enough in my tone that she understood she wouldn't win this argument with me. She got out a card and pouted. M: I'll pay Visa. While she was taking her sweet time, I just happened to take a look around the line of customer waiting, and something caught my eyes and my heart sank. LG was as blue as her ice cream, and her brother were frantically slapping her in the back trying to help her. I flew over the counter and pushed oblivious people aside to reach the poor girl. I bent down and told her I was going to try to help. I will never forget the look in her eyes. She was desperate. I immediately started the Heimlich procedure. I looked at my coworker dead in the eyes and yelled, "Go call an ambulance." I told a regular customer who was friend with my boss, "Go get Julie, fake name." As I was still trying to save LG, I started to panic. She still wasn't breathing. Then M came up TP me and started yelling at me. I was too focused on my task to hear her, but my coworker said she was yelling that I was hurting her daughter. She even tried to stop me, but a customer who knew I was doing the best I could stopped her. My manager finally arrived and jumped on her knees next to me. She asked me to hand LG over. I did. LG was as limp as a rag doll by that time. My manager jammed a finger in LG's mouth and successfully dislodged the freaking bubble gum out of LG's throat. My manager is a retired nurse, She knew what she was doing. LG coughed and gasped, but she wasn't responsive. She was breathing, but her eyes were half closed. She wasn't crying like a 3-year-old would after such a traumatic event. M just stood there yelling at us, not once trying to reach and hug her own daughter. My manager held LG and tried to communicate with her. M, screaming, "What did you do to my baby girl?" Me, very angry from the experience. She was choking. M, liar, she's a big girl now, she know how to eat. You just assaulted her. Me, I was doing the Heimlich procedure, you moron. I stood up, angry, not willing to take any more shit from that M. She choked on a bubble gum, and I warned you about the danger. M was shocked by my extreme anger and took a step back. I guess my yelling got the attention of the dad, D, who was waiting outside because he suddenly appeared out of nowhere asking what was going on. M walked behind him and said, "M, this girl assaulted our daughter and now she's trying to attack me." D, what? Where is LG? I pointed to her and said, "Me, she over here." She was choking on a bubble gum. I tried to help. Dad was apparently a way better parent than M because he rushed to his daughter and held her in his arms. The paramedic arrived and examined her. She was still in crisis. Her brain was without oxygen for who knows how long. While the paramedic were working on her, the police also arrived. Apparently M had called them during the panic. M tried to convince them I assaulted LG, but every customer present at the scene, along with employees and camera, were there to back me up. Then she changed her story and claimed that I purposefully gave LG a dangerous ice cream without warning her. But again, I had proof that I showed her a bubble gum and the camera also shows her I don't care gesture. Dad was livid at M. He yelled at her that all this is her fault, that she was always like that, and this time she went too far. You almost killed her. Would it kill you to give shit about them for once? I'm assuming he meant their kids. M started crying and saying that it wasn't her fault, that I was the one who hurt LG. Dad got in the ambulance with LG and M got a fine for calling the police under false claims. She left with her two sons looking down. I think she had just realized what had happened because she was pale as a ghost. I don't know what happened to LG, and I never really asked my manager if M sued our shop for the event or not, but I was traumatized for weeks. Having someone's life in your hands is not a glorious feeling at all, especially a young kid like LG. I have a small hope that she is fine, but I still remember her lying lifeless as a paramedic tried to talk to her. I feel so guilty for giving her the ice cream. A little girl needed the Heimlich procedure because her M didn't listen to my warning about bubblegum ice cream being a choking hazard. Edit. I want to thank everyone who has shown kindness and support. I really needed that. I felt guilty ever since it happened, and a friend suggested I make the best out of the situation and post it here. I wasn't expecting so much support. Thank you all. It means a lot to me. Also, thanks for the awards. They were my first ones, and I was not expecting them at all. My great aunt had something similar happen to one of her uncles. My great uncle. He had seizures and would often bite his tongue so hard it bled, so he kept gauze in his mouth to help from biting it. One day when she was about 6 or 7 and home alone with him, he had a seizure and swallowed the gauze. It got stuck and she tried to get it out but couldn't reach down his throat. They were out in the country with no phone at the house and he passed away as she watched helplessly. She had no idea what to do and stayed beside his body for several hours until her parents came to pick her up. She blamed herself for the rest of her life that he died, even though it wasn't her fault. My rabbit choked one piece of banana and I freaked out for 2 seconds and almost called the emergency vet, but obviously there wasn't time. I grabbed my bunny and braced him between my legs, then reached in and tried to pull it out, but it was too mushy. I then just pushed it down his throat. I could feel the ridges of his esophagus, but I wasn't sure at the time if I pushed it into his lungs instead. Fortunately he started breathing again and sat there panting. I sat there panting too. My heart rate was through the roof, but he made it. He later came down with a bad GI bleed and he weakly hopped into my room for help. I took him to the emergency vet, but he lost too much blood, so I had to put him to sleep. I still find it interesting that he came to me for help, and now I'm wondering if he remembered the banana incident and thought I could help him again. I'm not even going to lie, if I were you, I'd talk to your manager and recommend either pulling that ice cream completely or institute a store policy banning its sale for children under 10. It's a huge liability for the store, not just for you, who may have to watch another kid go through this again. I'm sorry you went through this and hope you are feeling better. Understand that it's not your fault, and to be perfectly honest, choking hazards shouldn't be on the menu at any store geared for kids for just this reason. That wasn't your decision to make, you were just the sales clerk. Why 10? Because most young kids will still try to practically inhale delicious treats, even if you think you've trained them to chew. Ice cream itself is not a chew treat, because it's cold enough to be painful against teeth, and most mix-ins are therefore also soft. It would not surprise me at all if even older kids would choke on this. When I was pregnant with my middle daughter, I took infant CPR, and they went over exactly this. Don't finger sweep, it can push the object further in. When said daughter was about 6 or 7 months old, we were at my in-laws' house, where my brother-in-law and his 3-year-old son also lived. For some reason, his son had a jar of pennies, because super safe for a 3-year-old, and he dumped them all over the living room. When we got there, I quickly cleaned them all up, and then put my baby down to play, thinking it was okay. I missed one under the couch. She did not. When she started choking on it, everything I'd learned in the CPR course went straight out the window. I scooped her up, smacked her back, and immediately shoved my finger down her throat. It was almost instinctual, just to get the penny up. I was super lucky. I succeeded in dislodging it. She coughed it the rest of the way up, and she started breathing normally again. Nothing like the ops situation, of course. She had seconds at most without air, but it was still terrifying AF. Afterward, the CPR lessons came rushing back, and I realized what I could have done, but it didn't matter, because I'd been successful, and she was okay. That instinct to finger sweep is a really damned hard one to ignore, and I'd imagine even a trained nurse might still have moments where she went on instinct over training. In this case, like in mine, the kid got lucky that instinct didn't make things so much worse.